Hello and welcome to a very special episode of GG Weekend Watch, still kindly sponsored by BetMGM, but this is our Royal Ascot special preview show. Myself, Kate Tracy, in the hosting seat, alongside Andrew Matt and Dave Young. Now we're going to go through all 8 Group 1 contests across the 5 days. Of course, we would be here until the meeting itself if we were to cover in depth of every single race, but of course the lads will be on top of plenty of the other races nearer the time in their columns. But before we get stuck into the action at Royal Ascot, just a reminder, we have been nominated yet again for the Smart Betting Club Awards, again for Best Podcast. So we won it last year. Please do vote for us again. As well as that, Dave and Andrew are also nominated individually in their own rights as well from the tipster section then, so please get voting for them also. Right,
Kate, what have you done with the trophy from last year? Because I haven't had my month with you yet.
No, I think our dearly departed Mr. Carter must have run off with it, to be honest. So yeah, no, we didn't get a look in, you and I. So no, hopefully this year we will get a trophy each. We will be demanding that if we should be so lucky to win it again. We're divas nowadays. Right, we will begin with this Royal Ascot preview show, of course, on the Tuesday. Now we kickstart with the curtain raiser itself, the Group 1 Queen Anne. This is for the 4-year-olds and over a mile, in Spiral, 3-1 heading the way. Andrew, do we forgive her, or what was your play in the Queen Anne, please?
Yeah, tricky, isn't it? Yeah, and John Gosling came out afterwards and said, "Oh, she needed the run." Told us that beforehand. You're like, "No, you didn't, mate. What are you on about?" And so yeah, who knows? I mean, it's been an interesting week regarding this race. We've had Maurizio Guarnieri throw the jockey under the bus for the ride on Rock. And yeah, that crunching sound was him getting hit by a double decker. So you know, again, you could see either of them bouncing back from that disappointment in the lock engine, winning this. But would you want to back them at sort of 3-1, 6-1, respectively? Probably not. It's a really tricky one. I mean, statistically, the angle has been to side with 4-year-old Colts, whose latest run came into Group 1 that has shown a good profit, and 4-year-old Colts, regardless of what race they ran in last time, would have even included last year's 33-1 winner triple time. I wasn't particularly sort of keen on this race from a punting perspective. The only angle I was looking at was Witch Hunter each way, the one I put up for a place in the lock hinge. A mile's probably not ideal. He did disappoint in a Group 3 at Haydock last time. Perhaps that's I'm not sure if that came a little bit too soon on the ground, was just too fast. I don't know. But you look at his straight track form. Doesn't often get to run on straight tracks, but he does do pretty well. You go back in reverse order, 3rd in the lock hinge, a winning Group 2 company at Newbury, albeit over 7 furlongs, a place outfit in Group 3 Chip Chase Stakes over 6 furlongs at Newcastle. That trip would have been on the short side, excuse me. And then, of course, go back to last year, Royal Ascot. He won the Buckingham Palace Stakes as a 50-1 shot, field of 29. So it's a long time since he's been out of the frame on a straight course, and maybe he can just pick up some place money again. He'd probably finish 3rd, beating 8 1/4 lengths, but you're still getting paid.
Yeah, your best mate as well, those. But yeah, nice big price. And like I say, that is probably the horse that is overpriced and in this as it currently stands. Nice big price then for Andrew for his old mate, Dave. Who did you like in the Queen Anne?
Yeah, see, I'm boring and more traditional. The ones towards the head of the market, it's a bit of a mishmash of who I could make the strongest case for, I guess. Andrew obviously is trend horses. He's got much better trends than I can spiel out. But I have done the cheat sheets for Ascot, right, for each of the days. I think we'll be able to put a link of them in the description. So sometimes when you've got it whittled down to a couple, those little bits can sometimes help, like Andrew touched on about the 4-year-olds, things like that. I come to that, the last bit I'll talk about this race, but it still makes it difficult for me to switch this one up. It's just a really nice competitive race. And you touched on that last one, right? The lock hinge has like thrown a bit of a spanner in the works more than anything, I guess. I was really surprised with how the trainer, again, I want to apologise for being offensive, but how much he just seemed clueless with Big Rock before the race. Like, it was a nice family day out. He was like, I don't really know how well he is. Don't really know if he'll come on for the run. Ideally, I would have liked it to have been slower ground, but he's probably just saying that because of everything he's run on before. And then I thought off the back of that, because I was fairly strong when it wasn't. I thought he would still be the best horse in the race. He was still pretty solid in the market after that. But what happened just before the off, which can so often happen in flat races, there was a lot of big moves. So Big Rock for sort of 10 minutes up until 2 minutes before the off, was just 5-2 on the exchanges. Then with just a minute before he went out to 130, then he went out to 4-1 just as they went off. Now it's not like a jumps race where you can see where they're lining up in terms of position to make a difference. So he was a big bad drifter right at the off. In Spiral was the opposite sort of way, which you'd kind of expect with market correction, but was sort of 9-4, 5-2 in the time building up, and then went off at 2s. Sharon was one as well that got backed in, was 13-2 into about 6-1, and then ended up going off at 9-2. Audience, the actual winner, was 46s 10 minutes before, went down to 40s, and then went to 30s, and then at post time was 25. I think SP was 23.77. So the point of me saying that type of stuff is horses did disappoint, and Spiral disappointed, and Big Rock disappointed. It wasn't the jockey's fault on Big Rock. I thought he'd be fine going to another yard because he's a good horse, but I'm probably happy to say now I don't think he'll probably be as good ever again. But the market sort of knew what was going to happen. So some ran to sort of expectation, and that's what worries me a little bit, right? I feel like Sharon was expected to run well, an Audience, even though it was a bigger price. I just don't see how they're going to actually be better than like a peak in Spiral. And even if Big Rock did manage to throw it back, which I don't think he could do, I don't think they'll be able to get up to that sort of numbers because they're capable of running in the 120s, whereas I think a lot of these other horses in the race just are probably just a bit short of that. But one horse that isn't short of it that can definitely run into those numbers is Factor Cheval. He won the Dubai Turf and Maidan back in March, didn't he? He was 20-1 that day, I think. Pretty decent run, I thought. And he was beaten by Paddington at Goodwood last time. I think they touched on a little bit to do with like the ground a bit was comments that were made in there. But they made the same sort of comments for Paddington after when Factor Cheval was behind Big Rock and Paddington was well behind. They said that the ground was too soft for him. So there was excuses for some of those horses in there. But I think that Factor Cheval ran pretty well. He had Sharon in Spiral behind that day. And I think just in a bunched betting heat, I would probably be siding with him. Look, like we say, the trends would tell you want to look for the 4-year-olds and you want to look for horses that have won round here, which means Big Rock would probably tick more boxes than most. But I'm writing him off, and I probably will regret doing that. It's going to make me look more of a fool than taking on Shareholder last week. It's a really fascinating race. It looks really good, but I think if anyone's got any real confidence in this, they need their head testing.
Yeah, it is. It's a scramble of a race, really, isn't it? And therefore, I thought, was Sharon not just the most solid proposition in here? And I still think he remains a feasible enough price, considering how solid a horse that he actually is in the main body of the season. Of course, not really factoring in Factor Cheval's Maidan success as in the main body of the season from what we've been seeing then on the turf this campaign over on these shores. But I still think that people can't believe their eyes quite with Sharon. Now, he has contracted into about 4-1 now, so perhaps they finally are. But he's proven it on 3 occasions now this season. And if the rain does hit Ascot enough, there are plenty of showers around in the forecast. We know that the Ascot turf dries like the Sahara, but even so, there are still plenty of enough showers around, considering this is the first race on the first day. But any moisture will only aid him. And I mean, in saying that, it even dried up at Newbury, didn't it, last time for the Group 1 Lockinge? That didn't phase him. Doing best of those away from Audience, who made all but those tactics, of course. But Audience will be very difficult to pull off this time round. But a horse that continues to be underestimated. Charon was a solid play for me. Gets better and better with each run, despite being a 4-year-old now. But we know that Dark Angels can tend to improve with time anyway. So I will go with the solid proposition of Charon. Right, we're moving on to the 345 now. This is the King Charles III Stakes, another Group 1, of course. 3-year-olds and over 5 furlongs today. Sprinters to the fore. Now, we know the quality and the depth of British and Irish sprinting or European sprinting isn't quite where we would like it. So Big Ebs that is who heads away at 7-2. Backer, or you have to take him on at that price?
Well, like I said in the first race, I think you'd be like a bit of a guesser if you were fully confident. I think our like 3 variant tips sort of suggest that, right? It's a great race. You've touched on here as well that this isn't a vintage renewal. Again, just a loose one on the trends. 7 of the last 10 winners had an official rating of 117 plus. We don't even have a runner in the race that's that sort of number. So it isn't a vintage one. But to answer your question, Big Evs at 7-2 is an absolute rick. Just it's a stupidly big price. I'm really, really keen on Big Evs. I'll put some substance to it rather than just saying I'm going to tip up a favourite. But across the week, right, we have got the 8 Group 1s that we'll be covering. There's going to be lots of horses that will be similar sort of prices. There'll be loads of 7-2 shots, for example. But from my perspective, we're recording this a bit earlier. I think we'll probably be going out on Saturday. So you've still got a few days for prices and things to change. But a lot of these are going to shorten, I think, and some of them will probably go out. Big Evs has got a shorten. His comeback run when he was giving weight away was, I know I'm probably getting overexcited because I'm a big fan of him anyway, but like it was nothing short of spectacular. He was supported pretty well in the betting. I watched the betting and running while the race is going off. He wasn't exactly as short as I thought he would be, given the fact that he came out okay. So it wasn't as if they were like, oh well, he's definitely going to win. But he won like it was an absolute good thing. So I was impressed with that. And obviously we see lots of horses might step up from being a previous season sort of like stalwart winner to then come into the next season where for whatever reason they just don't look like they're the same horse. He looks like he's better than ever. Now last season's Nunthorpe is the reason why I think we're getting a little bit of a price, and Living the Dream, as much as it's painful as it is, last time out getting beat probably helps with that conundrum, because the form of that Nunthorpe race isn't really the best, is it? Living the Dream's 0 from 4 since. I know Hypo Princess has one, but flopped next time out. There was signs of being in season was cited, but I think that's reaching a little bit. Bradsell 2 was well beaten in the same race. The 4th is winless, including getting beaten in Group 3. 6th been beaten in lesser company, has managed to win a handicap, but I mean, as much as he got beat there, he was a 2-year-old taking on those horses. And I think it's probably just one of those, it's probably just an outlier race. Some horses run better than expected. Some horses probably run worse than expected, which was the excuse I'm making for Big Eves. But he came back out after, didn't he? And he just started winning again. So he showed that you could just put a line through that run. I just think he's such a good thing. I think he's a proper horse. Regional was 5th in that Nunthorpe, right? Who potentially is going to be the main threat that's in here, but I don't know with that horse. I feel like the horse's best efforts have been at 6 furlongs. I just think Big Evs is like, from the 5.5 furlong perspective, I know we're saying in Europe we haven't got the best ones in there. He's the only horse that potentially could be. I just think he's better than all of these. So pretty confident. I really do think he'll win.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I know a lot of people were quite harsh on his reappearance win when he went to York, but I mean, that's his first start as a 3-year-old. It's never easy for a sprinter to hold their form at the best of times. And he was conceding £5 then to his rivals as well. And of course, he is just all speed. So I'm pleased that he's going down the King Charles route rather than the Commonwealth Cup route against his own age, getting weight then from his elders in this. But yeah, he's got the course and distance winning form to his name as well. So Big Evs for the pair of us two. Andrew, you going to join us or are you siding against him?
No, I mean, he's solid enough, isn't he? He's you know, he was a bit unlucky on his debut at Redcar. Got beaten half a length from a terrible draw when running green, and then he's won 5 from 6 with the Nunthorpe blowout, the only defeat. And we all know we can forgive any horse's defeat at York. So we don't know the draw yet for this race, whether that'll be important or not. It might be, might not be. But look, I'm looking at ones at bigger prices with a view to having an each-way bet. Rogue Lightning was one that interested me, being purchased by Wathnan Racing. Now, because since he took off when he was gelded last year and fitted with a herd, he won 3 in a row, including over this course of distance. He then went to Longchamp for the Prix de l'Abbé, behind Highfield Princess. Now the winner was poorly drawn. She did really well to win, as was the third Aesop's Fables. And Rogue Lightning had a shocking draw in stall 19. To finish 5th from and beaten a length and a quarter was a solid effort. Then of course on his comeback run, the ground softened ideal at Haydock and the Padlock Stakes behind Kurdos, and he's drifted from like 9-2 out to 17-2. You know, got beaten 3.5 lengths in 6. Clearly needed to run. And I think he'll be a lot better at Ascot, particularly if the ground is on the quick side. So Rogue Lightning is one of the two. The other one is going back to the Prix de l'Abbé last year, and it's Makarova for Ed Walker. Now, she had a shocking draw in that race. She was drawn in stall 17. She's finished 6th, 1 place behind Rogue Lightning, the aforementioned Rogue Lightning, I should say, and yet she's about 4 or 5 times the price. I think sort of 50 to 1ish or thereabouts. So now, last time out at Longchamp, she'd finished 2nd in the Group 3. The winner made all. She's come from off the pace. She's run well at Ascot before. She was 6th in the and Champion Sprint Stakes at last October. That was 6 furlongs, admittedly. It's she was 66 to 1 shot, 15 runners. Ran a good race and a sort of like rapid 5 furlongs at this track. Particularly if there is a bit of cut, could see her in a good light. So she probably needs the rain, but 50 to 1 each way, not without a chance there. So yeah, I'll split stakes, Rogue Lightning, and Makarova.
Yeah, Rogue Lightning at 12 to 1 and Makarova 50 to 1. Then Fred Walker and Paul Morenin has got the jock up then in that one. Right, now that was the fastest of the fast, the King Charles III Stakes. The 4:25 on the first day is the Group 1 St. James's Palace Stakes for the 3-year-olds over a mile. Now this is probably the race of the week. This is so excited to see the matchup between Notable Speech and Rosalian, chucking in Henry Longfellow into their heart. And we're not entirely sure if he's going to go here. We're pretty sure he's going to go down the Jersey route, but we're waiting on the weather, Andrew, to definitely dictate where these horses are going to go. Hopefully it is still quick enough that we get the matchup between Notable Speech and Rosalian, because that is quite a matchup.
Yeah, although Notable Speech won quite well, very comfortably, didn't he, at Newmarket? Is there any reason why Rosalian can reverse the form? Bear in mind that was Notable Speech's turf debut. Could have more improvement to come. I know it was a 16 to 1 shot that day, but everything was a massive price, really, wasn't it? Given the money for City of Troy. So I thought it was a case of a Notable Speech wins, Rosalian probably finishes second, and then take your pick for third. So I'll probably play the Toto Exacta in the race, but I thought Notable Speech 11 to 8 was was a fair price. I could see him being 11 to 10 on, 6 to 5 on, something like that, assuming they all stand their ground. Wasn't usually keen on Henry Longfellow at sort of 4 to 1. So yeah, Notable Speech for me to make it 5 wins from 5 starts and confirm 2,000 guineas form with Rosalian.
Yeah, let's say uphold that form then from his last run. Notable Speeches as well, where he beat Rosalian pretty comfortably. Now, Dave, I know a few people were perhaps they were clutching at straws. I'm not entirely sure then why Rosalian could reverse that form with Notable Speech, because Notable Speech, of course, was coming into the race fit, then that bit sharper as well. But can you see that form being reversed, or are you looking away from the head of the market?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because probably no would be the obvious answer, but I'd also say that we haven't really got that much to go on. So I know it's his turf debut, and his previous runs look really good as well. And obviously he is a standout 2,000 guineas winner. But there's a part of me that feels like he's priced up like we know that he's already miles clear of these horses, and we know for the fact he was quicker than Rosalian at Newmarket. He had him well covered. There's no way if you ran that 2,000 guineas race again, you would imagine that Rosalian would beat him. But obviously we're running somewhere different, aren't we? We're running at Ascot, and Rosalian was really good there. We've got a bend for him to go round, so we know Notable Speech goes round bends as well, because obviously he did that on the all-weather. So it would be clutching a little bit to think from a class perspective anything could beat Notable Speech in here, priced accordingly. And like Andrew said, he probably, for people that do fancy him, he probably is an all right price, to be fair. So it's hard to see him getting beat, or especially for Rosalian to reverse that form. Now, Henry Longfellow, I've got a little bit of a soft spot for anyway. I think I mentioned even before, I thought he could end up being potentially like a Derby horse. When he ran in the French 2,000 guineas, so we've got the Irish 2,000 guineas winner in, we've got the English, and then we've obviously got the failed French 2,000 guineas horse for Henry Longfellow's. He was bad in that race, but they didn't really ride him. And Aidan O'Brien's put a recent stable tour out there, so there'll be lots of these flying about. And he's just saying that I'll quote what he said. He said he's better than that. We feel he's come forward nicely since then. You should see a completely different horse at Ascot. He's been doing everything right at home, and everyone is happy. So he's sort of 4 to 1 and Rosalian 7 to 2. You'd probably argue that Henry Longfellow should be bigger because we're just backing on the hype of Aidan O'Brien, but obviously Aidan O'Brien we trust, right? So I feel like I've got the holy trinity of betting here. My head is saying Rosalian's the one, my heart's saying Henry Longfellow, and then my gut, to complete the holy trinity, is saying that Notable Speech could just end up being one of the best milers we've seen for a long time. And if that obviously is true, 11 to 8 in hindsight's going to look massive, but I'd want to see him again before I get stuck in. So it's a sitting on the fence type race. I will probably find a way to bet something, but I don't know what it would be at the moment. But just looks a really good race. I hope Notable Speech batters him and is just an absolute worldie would be the ideal result.
Yeah, that would be, wouldn't it? And then we'll have our answers as well. And he could be an absolute worldie, as you say. I just wonder if Hartem, I mean, he's 20 to 1 now because he has been earmarked then for the jersey to try and avoid Rosalian. But of course, for what he must have cost Wafnam Racing. And I don't think the jersey's as easy a contest as they're expecting. I think it's going to be a bit spicier than it initially looked like. But he could well be the super sub if the rain does come and Rosalian is not suited by that skipsis. Hartem could get chucked in. So Antipost plays whether or not you take that chance on a big price about him, Hartem, because if he runs in this, then I would fancy him to at least pick up third. So we'll see about that one. Right, they are the Group 2s on Tuesday. We'll move on to the Wednesday then of Royal Ascot. We've only got the one Group 1 on the card on Wednesday. Now that comes up at 4:25. It is the Prince of Wales' stakes over the 10 furlongs. August Rodin versus White Birch. Dave, are we being forgiving of August Rodin, and is he going to reverse that form with White Birch?
I don't think I can forgive you for saying it's a match race. That's
Did I say it was a match race? I think you're putting words in my mouth.
No, true. But we're looking at the clash between August Rodin and White Birch, which is definitely the right place to start. Obviously, that's where I started doing my homework from it as well. But I think I've given a little clue to the fact that I won't be tipping either of those two in this race. Does look like a real nice race, doesn't it? Some good horses in here. August Rodin, obviously winning the Derby last year, proved that he can do anything in a race beforehand, and it doesn't really translate to what he'll do next time out. I get a bit nervous with August Rodin, the fact that they make excuses about the ground and things for him, yet he's run just as terribly on the ground that he should like, as he has done when he's run on bad ground. And I don't know, it was weird when he ran last year. I think it was the King George run, wasn't it? Because he was just never in the race. And it was almost very early on, like they had lots of time to try and get him into the race or to try and do something about him. Bearing in mind he was sent off 9-4 favourite, I think it was, for the race. They just never bothered to try and get him in the race. And then obviously he came back out and he won after, so you would have to say that wasn't his run, but it just made me feel really uncomfortable. That was his performance round Ascot. Maybe they're looking for some sort of redemption with him, right? And they'll have trained him to the minute for this, and he'll have obviously come on for that last run. They said that the ground, like a little bit of rain came, and that's how we were going to reverse it with White Birch. But White Birch was behind him in the Derby, third, wasn't he? But if you look at White Birch at this trip, because obviously I keep saying about the Derby, this isn't 1 mile 4, this is 1 mile 2. White Birch, all his form at 10 furlongs is banging. He's 4 from 5 at that trip. The other time he was a neck second. So this is his trip. And August Rodin was a bit ropey at Ascot. So I think the market reflects it in the right way, right? The prices are the right way around. You'd probably say August Rodin maybe is the better horse, but White Birch does look like a significant rival. However, I really think that Horizon Door, right, has a proper chance, especially at the prices, the way that it's put up there. But it's not even just from a price perspective. I think he's pretty solid overall. Yes, he's yet to win a Group 1, but he's posted a couple of 120s. He's done a 121 and a 122. And I think he looks easily as good this term, and possibly, I think he could be improving. I think there could be more to come. I do also think, right, his run behind King of Steel in the Champions Stakes last season, for me, is the best 10 furlong form in this race. I know those two clashed last time at the same trip, but he pulled so hard that day. There was no way at any point in the race I thought he was ever even going to complete, let alone be challenging for a position. So I don't know how he was only beaten 2 and a bit lengths. We know King of Steel is a proper horse. Yeah, I think that is like the best form that's on offer. So the break is the only thing that's a little bit of a concern, especially for a horse that does pull a little bit. He's settled nicely in his races this season, bar his first start up where he pulled. But I would imagine that, given how he ran so well with Pudding last time, if he is that keen this time round, I know there's other potential pace angles in it, but I wonder if they'll just say, do you know what, actually, let's just go on with it, because we know that he's got the ability to run well, and there is a chance that they will go quick enough that he won't be putting his arms out. So even if he does pull, we know that he can see his race out. I know that's not 100% given, but I think he's being priced up as though he's a keen type horse. He's probably going to get beat. I think he's got a chance, right? And I know there's lots of his form that's on slower ground, especially when he's going over and running in France. But his sire produced an Albany winner, different league, who won that race on good to firm. So I'm pretty happy with the conditions, whatever happens in terms of ground. I think a run into the 120s, which we know he can do, will see him absolutely bang there. And the fact that August Rodin could easily blow out, the fact that White Birch is obviously very good at this trip, but we've seen he has got beaten. He got beaten in the neck. I think Horizon Door is 100% the play in this race, and I reckon he probably will win this.
Oh, 8-1 shot as well. Then the French takeover again, perhaps then with Horizon Door for the Cotier yard as well. Coming over here, right? Andrew Davis taking on August Rodin and White Birch heading the way. Were you looking towards one of those two or elsewhere?
Yeah, I'll go White Birch. Again, four or 5 year olds who won the last time they raced in Britain or Ireland have won 8 of the last 10 renewals from 25 bets, profit of over 31 quid. Luxembourg qualified on that angle, but he's the front runner, and we know on the round course at Ascot that you probably don't want to be leading. You don't want to be towards that far side rail, generally speaking. He did run second to Mosterdaf in this race previously. I think he was given an RPR of 120 for that run, and that would have only won this race once in the last 10 years. I think Love got 119 when winning at the O'Brien yard in what was a weak renewal. So I was very much sort of in the White Birch camp now that Passenger has had that setback and is definitely not running. Hopefully he can make it 4 from 4. Bit of rain wouldn't go amiss. And the one I was interested in at a big price, if the ground was on the soft side, is Royal Rhyme for the Carl Burke yard. He's just very ground dependent. I think he's unbeaten on good to soft or soft to going. And including a win at Sandown last time out from a certain lad in the Brigadier Gerard. I know he's up in class, but if he gets his ground, Royal Rhyme 25 to 1, that would be a very big price.
A very big price for the Carl Burkhardt, who did spring an upset in these colours then, of course, at last year's Royal Ascot as well. I am with White Birch, though, because I'm going to have this carry on with August Rodin all over again this season, just as I did last year with the Oxo passing off this horse. I could never trust him to side with him or to be parting with my own money at that price. So this whole thing going on again. And White Birch, of course, and for me, the most obvious one to beat him. 3 from 3 this season, all at the Curragh, though, and all over the same course and distance, which is always going to be a question mark for a horse, as you can just get those complete course specialists, but not often are they merely course specialists at the top level. That ability does tend to transcend beyond the confines of just one racetrack, and he is at best, as you've just said, Andrew, there with ease in the ground, admittedly, but he did also finish 3rd in the Derby on fast ground last year. And I thought that obviously the Mercurial August Rodin ran his race last time out as well. We know him as the win or bust horse. So when you dealt with a second place finish, you sort of think, well, what was that? I think that was more him giving his running than anything else. And so I'm going to take the positive view of that form, and which means that you have to elevate the performance of White Birch even more. Admittedly, the Tattersalls Gold Cup has been a relatively winnable Group 1 for the past few years, but it was a perfect stepping stone for White Birch into Group 1 company, which he took with aplomb. But just hope that he's definitely confirmed for the race, because it isn't 100% assured yet, but I don't see why Connections wouldn't want to go there then with him. Right, that was the Group 1 on the Wednesday. We will switch then to the Thursday. Now, again, the same time, 4:25, the Group 1 Gold Cup, the big one, over 2 mile 4. Now, Kyprios, of course, is a short price favourite for this one, Andrew. We actually have an odds-on shot then for Royal Ascot. It feels like a Cheltenham Festival preview all over again. We've only got the one, though. Only the one odds-on shot at this stage. So are you taking him on or siding with him?
Probably side with him. I mean, when he came back from injury, I thought, oh, he's not going to be the horse of old. Even after he won that Navan listed race at a short price, I thought he could still be, vulnerable. But yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It's trained by a genius, and he seems to be as good as ever. So I thought he'd probably win. I'll be looking for an each way on the day, assuming we get 8 or more runners. And I was quite interested by the entry of Pridwin for George Scott. I know this one seems best on the all weather, 6 wins from 13 compared to 2 from 13 on the turf, but he did run reasonably well here on his latest turf start. That was back in August of last year, when finishing 5th in a 2 mile handicap, and of course he's improved considerably since on the all weather. So maybe If there was a little bit of cut in the ground, Pridwin could be the each way son of Camelot. But yeah, gun to my head, it's going to be Kyprios, but I don't want to back him at 11 to 10 on.
No, and especially because he does have that little quirk in him where I know that he's the most talented horse in this race, but you always do have to factor that into whatever price he goes off at. But Pridwin is 66 to 1 as a potential each way play for that all weather form. To translate to Ascot, it's become a cliche in itself, but we know how well all weather form translates to Ascot, even over 2 mile 4. Dave, Kyprios, is he a good thing or not?
No, he's a terrible thing. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And you were on the right guidelines when you said that this is like a Cheltenham Festival preview, because I'll give you the winner. That's sort of a spoiler alert out of the way, innit? The Kyprios thing, like, I don't want to knock him too much because obviously he is a very good horse. Those couple of comeback runs listed and Group 3 level, he's also been, like, the horse that's come second is Queenstown, the same stable. I don't even think they were really trying to go past Kyprios up. They wouldn't have wanted to take the scalp. And I don't think those performances are what he used to be. Like, I know he's run at that sort of level in the past, but he's trounced rivals in the past at that sort of level. So I'm dubious. I know he's obviously a very good horse, but like Andrew said, like, you're 100% you can see why he's at the head of the market. Deserves to be there. If they made him a bit of a price, he'd end up being a bit of a bet. But again, potentially putting words in Andrew's mouth. But I don't know whether you'd want to be playing him at 10 to 11, and that does mean that there's going to be some value elsewhere. Now, I've already alluded to the fact that Willie Mullins, he's going to go for the flat Trainers Championship in a couple of years, and he could have so many of these horses that are doing a lot. But it's like a tenuousy line through, so you have to bear with me a little bit. But I do believe it's accurate, right? So Kyprios, when he won this race before, horse as Vauban is, and I know it doesn't always translate 100%, but Burning Victory wouldn't have even got anywhere within 25 lengths of Goshen in the Triumph that she won. She's rated 143 over obstacles as her peak. Vauban's 160, so just a much better horse. And then you look at Vauban as well, what he did last year when he battered Absurd in that handicap. That was 7.5 lengths he beat Absurd by. And then I'd say Absurd is probably of the equivalent standard to Burning Victory. So again, like, I know it's over different trips, but we all remember when he went to Melbourne, didn't we? And everyone was talking about him being, like, unbeatable. There was a piece of work he did beforehand in front of a group of people that was, oh my God, ungodly. It was the best thing since sliced bread. And then for whatever reason, he didn't fire on the day, did he? Now, they're obviously going to try and go for redemption, but you can't just decide, oh, I'm going to have another crack at the Melbourne Cup, and then you go and win it. You've got to prove the fact that you're able to do that. So his comeback run where he ran and beat Gregory, I thought was pretty good, right? Gregory was just there for the day out, the same as Vauban was, but I was happy enough with what Vauban did. And I'm sure Buick said after that they'll be happy with everything going forward, and they were happy enough with the prep run in there. But if he's going to actually go and take the Melbourne Cup seriously, or even if they're going to spend the airfare to get him over there, I think he's got to be winning this. He's 8 to 1, top price in, I think there's only one place available. So we'll say 7 to 1 across the board. 3 places up for grabs. I just think I don't want to say there's no ways out the frame because I don't want to be stupid, but I think there's no ways out the frame. And I do think that he'll beat him. I think, like we said with Kyprios, like, he's got a little bit of I want to say, like, a little bit of a kink in him. I just don't think he'll get anywhere near Vauban. I just think he's going to put the afterburners on, and we might just see a very ready winner of this race. Now, we know it doesn't always happen, right? How many times have we seen, like, in a Grand National, it goes down to a photo, or a Gold Cup, there's 2 of them clashing? It always seems to be the further they go, sometimes the closer they finish. But I think Vauban's just so much better of a horse than Kyprios would have come up against that's come from the jumps. I reckon Vauban's going to batter him. 8 to 1's way too big a price.
A Willie Mullins horse then to batter an Aidan O'Brien horse in a Group 1 on the flat. We would love to see it. Flying the flag then for the jump. Well, I say jump yard. He's just everything now, isn't he, Willie Mullins? For Vauban, 8 to 1 for Dave. I'm just worried about him staying. Like, say, you've just said yourself there, Dave, it is a step up in trip by quite some distance. We didn't get the answers over the 2 miles in the Melbourne Cup, but I just have that slight fear about him fully getting the trip, rather than the each way solid play has to be Coltrane. We know he gets the trip, no problem. And he's a big price for this, 16 to 1. I can't have that he should be a 16 to 1. He's the superstar stayer who never gets credited as the superstar stayer. Always a nice price. 7-year-old now, feels like he's been around for double those years. Adores Ascot. He won the Ascot Stakes Heritage Handicap in 2022. Second in the long distance cup behind Trushan that same season. first in the Sagaro Stakes in 23, second in this race last year behind Courage Mon Ami, only beaten 3/4 of a length. Again, he won last time out at Ascot, over 2 miles in the Sagaro Stakes. A wonderful horse. Of course, I agree that Kyprios is the one to beat, but we know he isn't 100% straightforward. Coltrane is, and at an each way price, I think that's just insulting for Coltrane for me in the Gold Cup. Right, that is the Thursday Group 1s covered. Then we'll move on to the Friday, and we head to the 305. This is, of course, the Group 1 Commonwealth Cup over the 6 furlongs. Now, are we in a forgiving mood for Van Dijk in here, Dave? Forgiveness might be a theme of some of these races. Are we forgiving for it for Van Dijk?
Yeah, definitely forgive Van Dijk. He was so much better than the horse he's going up against last season. Like, was battering him out of sight. I know, obviously, like there's a difference to like a 2-year-old season and a 3-year-old season, but you can use anything to prove a fact, can't you? I could find a horse that flops and then use it as a substance in there. But I look at City of Troy and August Rodam, and they're their first run after. They're entitled to need the run to come on for it and to be okay. So I know, obviously, he was an odds-on favourite last time. I'm sure backers of his would be disappointed with the fact that he got beat, but especially so on the flat. There are lots of horses that they will need the first run much more significantly than may be the case when it comes to jumps racing. You've also got to remember as well, it was a Group 2 that he ran in last time. So as much as they're not going to want to lose races, that wouldn't have been the main target. And you'd have to say that it's just a stepping stone for this. So it was fitness as far as I'm concerned. I think he ran okay, if you take for the fact that he probably would have needed the run. You can't go in at this sort of level, especially against really good horses, and not be 100%. You get it with all types of racing where they might be like, oh, he's only 90% fit, things like that. But especially so on the flat when it's fast, I just don't think you can afford to be anything off. So I'm happy to forgive him for that last run. And then you just go back to what he was doing last season. He was battering these, wasn't he? Like Elite Status was like a dozen lengths behind him. And that's only over 6 furlongs. Like, how do you put that much distance between yourself and another horse? So yes, he did disappoint a little bit first time up, but the benefit of that is we're getting 4-1 about him. I think it's mad. He could be 2-1 in this race, and I'd still want to be backing him. I think he's the best horse in the race. I think he's the most likely winner of the race. So the fact that he is as big as 4-1 in there, it's just impossible to ignore him. You do obviously have to be a bit forgiving for that last run, but why not? It's not as if he's done anything that outlandish. It's not like he's been prepped. That was the big target, and then he's fallen short. I think you'd have to forgive him if he got beat here next time out, wouldn't you? But the fact is, he's just had a prep run for this. He shouldn't be 4-1. He should be shorter. So Team Van Dijk all the way.
I'm joining you with Team Van Dijk as well, even though it goes against everything I normally do betting or tipping wise, because I'm quite ruthless then for not being all that forgiving. But I'm maintaining the faith with Van Dijk about him here, because of course we've seen so many horses disappointing on the 3-year-old debut. And to be backing them as favourite then in such a competitive race next time out would normally go against my grain. But of course, City of Troy has been the ultimate one of that, then to bounce back to ready form. But I agree. I don't think this is a bad price about Van Dijk now. And last season, my word, did he look something out of the ordinary in there as well. So hopefully that is still the fact, and there's still enough to work on then for him this season as well, because the amount of greenness that he showed last year, you thought he's just going to be so exciting when he's still got that bit extra to work on into his 3-year-old year. But I guess in a weird way, I almost would have preferred it to be a total blowout like a City of Troy in the 2000 Guineas, because you say, well, that's far too bad to be true. This wasn't really far too bad to be true. Just never really looked like winning at any stage. But it was just a lesser effort. Yes, he was carrying the penalty. He was the only runner in the lineup without a run under the belt. He was keen. He was fresh. Don't really buy into the soft ground theory. People say, oh, the ground was against him. Because last year, towards the end of it, we were asking the question, oh, how is he going to cope with better ground? Is he a soft ground specialist? So I don't really buy into that all that much. Of course, it was an ideal first time out, but he deserves to be forgiven for that, and at least for getting a bit of a bigger price. But Andrew, he is in a bit of a Sheikh Mohammed Obeid Al Maktoum sandwich at the minute. Inisherin and Elite Status, still just waiting for that supplementation for Inisherin. But yeah, we're maintaining the faith of Van Dijk at least.
Yeah, I'd go the other way. I'd much prefer Inisherin, who was having his first run in a sprint when slamming Van Dijk by 4 lengths in the Sandy Lane Stakes, which is the best trial for the Commonwealth Cup. So I don't quite understand why they're both 4-1 when I would have Inisherin shorter than Van Dijk. And you're talking about bouncing back from a disappointing effort. He's not trained by Aidan O'Brien, he's trained by the Chrisfords, which, with the greatest respect to them, are not in the same league, as Mr. O'Brien. So I don't think 4-1 is a good price at all about it. And we don't know the draw, obviously, or the pace makeup of the field. We also don't know whether Big Evs is going to bolt up in the Kingston Stakes and then run here as well. Wouldn't be the first horse to take in both races. You could make a case for Just Saw based on that course handicap win last time out, but it's probably sort of priced quite defensively around about 12-1. Kind of Blue is unbeaten. James Fanshaw's having a really good time of things at the moment. He's going to be ridden patiently. That running style we know is generally what you need for Ascot. And one at a much bigger price, Malk, I thought had possibilities at 40-1. I know a few good judges who fancied him for the Norfolk Stakes last year. He was 66-1. He got shinned by 150-1 shot. So how's your luck when you bump into one like that? Now, he ran respectably behind elite status at Newbury last time and the Carnarvon Stakes. Now, because you wanted to be sort of drawn low, middle at worst towards the far side that day, first 3 drawn 2, 6 and 4. He's come out stall 13 and done best of those in double figures, in finishing 4th at 22-1. That was his first run since his 4th to Big Evs last September. And his second time out last year, he's run a blinder at Royal Ascot. He could do so again. So I'll go Inisherin, but I'm going to play Malk each way as well.
Yeah, 40-1 about Malk as well. I literally just looked at him before you said his name there. He's a big old price bet in Sharon then to take on Van Dijk at the head of the market. Right, the other Group 1 on the Friday comes up at 3:45. This is, of course, the Group 1 Coronation Stakes for the 3-year-old fillies over a mile. Now, Opera Singer has been really well supported for this, Andrew. So does she come forward for a reappearance?
Very possibly. The betting certainly suggests so. Because what we don't know is the draw at the moment, and the round course it has got a round mile this time. I generally like to be sort of late wide and draw middle to high, and not be sort of on the front end. She was disputing the lead when third at the Curragh last time. She was also beaten first time out, albeit on a racecourse debut, before taking a big step forward at the second time of asking. So no surprise to see her ridden with a bit more restraint this time and running a lot better. I'm guessing you're going to be with Al Malka, your old friend, having tipped her up at a massive price when she won the 1,000 guineas. But yeah, I didn't have a strong opinion in this race at all. I just want to sort of wait until I know the draw and then sort of play those likely to be ridden patiently and likely to come wide down the middle of the track. So I'll leave this one to you, I think.
Which hopefully then will be Al Malka. He'll be able to back up that 1,000 guineas success, and she will get that nice toe into the race then as well. For all that, obviously, from what we've seen of her in her 3 starts so far, they have been the straight tracks. So I wonder how she's going to cope then with the configuration of Ascot here. But also, I was hoping to see Buttons go in here, but from what we're hearing, it sounds like Ballydor are going to be solely represented by Opera Singer, which is a shame because I thought that Buttons would have a right each way chance in here and has been kind of forgotten about in the market. But I'm going to leave this race to one side then, similar to Andrew, until I know the final makeup of it. Buttons each way, but El Malka hopefully to prove that Guinea's success was not a fluke. Dave, how did you weigh up the race?
Yeah, it's kind of like a related double, isn't it? If you do Malk and Al Malka together. So that's one for the anti-post double for people to get stuck into. Yeah, so Andrew did touch on the draw quite a bit for the last one and this one, which is fair. Just, I think it's worth me saying, for those that are obviously still watching and remember me saying about Van Dijk, like I said about the price stuff, like I was more than happy if it had been shorter. I would definitely want to wait for the draw because I think stall 8 or lower is like preferable. And if he gets the draw, I'd bat him at a shorter price. If he doesn't get the draw and his price gets bigger, then it works out well. So yeah, some of these, as much as we're doing them early, obviously short-term anti-post is a dangerous way to play it, right? Anyway, we've talked about that with our Opera Singer, haven't we? She's been very well supported recently for this bet, but like pretty much bet like she can't get beat in this. I'm a big fan of this horse anyway. The 1,000 guineas run definitely would have put a spot on for this. But Amalka was a decent winner of that 1,000 guineas, wasn't she? She looked the winner quite a long way out. But I've watched it back quite a few times, and I do think there's a chance that a few maybe didn't run to their best. So I really do respect her. I don't want to offend you, Kate, but I think that Opera Singer is the one to beat. The market agrees with that as well. I don't know what's going to happen tactically with it, because obviously last time out, Fallen Angel like made most of the running, didn't she? Opera Singer has been prominent before. I know Andrew's touched on the fact that you sort of want to be behind and go through with it. I wonder if this is going to be one of those tactical races where I wonder if they might send Opera Singer on. So potentially might not be ideal when you look at it historically, but I just think if they go fast enough, I don't see how Opera Singers be. And I've got a bit of a feeling that if they're getting tactical, it's not going quick enough. I could see Ryan Moore taking this up quite early, kicking on. And although the in-running punters might want to try and take her on because she's at the front, I can see her trading quite short. So I'm pretty sweet that Opera Singer would win this. Buttons that you mentioned I do like as well, but I just don't know how much juice there is in the 5-2 about Opera Singer now. Not that she's not going to run. I think I'd wait till the day, see how to play her. But if she starts to get way too short, then it's probably a competitive enough race that you might have to leave it alone. But I expect she'd win, but just a really exciting race to come up, I think.
Oh, definitely so. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Ballygirl do with it, though. And if that confidence is there as Opera Singer as the sole representative, then surely you're going to have to take that as confidence behind her all the same. So, yeah, a race that's going to be fascinating for when we actually do get decks then for it. Right, we're on to our final Group 1. Of course, this comes up on the Saturday, the final day of Royal Ascot at 3:45. The Group 1, Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes, 6 furlong performers, I should say, 2 of the 4 then in this one. So, Dave, again, we're dealing with these sprinters here. Doesn't make it all that much easier. Dear old Kinross is heading the way at 6-1, joined now actually by Millstream. So, yeah, not an easy one to weigh up.
Yeah, I don't so much call him dear old Kinross after he got done at 101 in the October meeting last year.
Oh.
That was brutal, that was. And that's obviously like the nice little reminder that we need sometimes of these short distance trips, that it is very fine margins that can win you a bit of a race. This would probably be the Group 1 of all of the 8 that I've got the least amount of sort of confidence, particularly predicting the winner. You can see from the market in there as well that it's pretty open. The one that I do quite like though is Mitt Bahi. If he does indeed come here and gets a nice enough draw, he was in the right group last year, but he was just not as good at 5 furlongs. So it's not like he was on the wrong side, or not really too many excuses are. He's just not a 5 furlong horse. He's a 6 furlong horse. So he got a Group 2 last time, didn't he? That was under a classic Jamie Spencer ride. So I'd hope that sort of thing would happen again. He'll get a decent ride, get a little bit of luck in running, pick up the pieces before. He beat Regional, didn't he? When he won that race last time. And I talked about him when we mentioned earlier with the Big E's race and stuff. So I think that Regional is best at 6 furlongs. So I think that form does stand up. I think it's probably stand-up worthy to be sort of winning a Group 1 standard. So Mitt Bahi would be the selection. I think he's as big as 10-1 at the time of recording. But again, like we've touched on, I'd want to wait and see the draw and things like that as well. But nice, exciting race. I'd be happy to wait and see what happens when this final declaration's coming in. But Mitt Bahi is firmly on the radar.
He was my Anfo's pick then for last week. Last week, a show that I did, Mitt Bahi for this. And again, of course, you need to see the draw for this. But I mean, I love Kinross. He's probably my favourite flat horse in training, but he doesn't need his reappearance starts. He's a burly character, and now he's 7 years old. So hopefully this is just for sharpener then for him. I expect him to run well, but not to win. Millstream, I know he's very good at York, but I don't really like that form all that much. For all it was a Group 2, but in line then with the Jubilee, it's going to require another step forwards from him. Shartash clearly improving and thriving, hence why he's caught the eye of Wafnan. But this is the first step up from listed company into a Group 1. Then Mitt Bahi in the betting is next in. Only the 3 starts so far for Charlie Hills, previously a Roger Varian, 8th of 17 in the Group 1 King's Stand last season. But of course, gained listed success at Chester, signing off for that yard. And he was right back to that form last time out in the Group 2 Greenland Stakes over the 6 furlongs. And he's been marked up for that for a whole number of reasons. He missed the break, tends to be ridden off the pace anyway, which will suit Ascot straight track, quicken up really well. First time winning over a stiff 6 furlongs as well. So should be more to come from Mitt Bahi, 10-1. Dave and I in agreement again, Andrew, but who wins it for you?
Yeah, Frankie Dettori parachutes in, lands on the saddle, Kinross in the parade ring, and goes on to win on his UK return. It was never going to happen. No,
Not Chan.
Like you, I wasn't usually keen on Millstream, just because the first three in that York race were drawn low and raced on the far side of the track. I thought the one to take from that was obviously Washington Heights, who was fourth in the race and was poorly drawn. I thought I wanted to be against him that day, thinking, oh, he was flattered by that Newmarket win at the Craven meeting when there was a strong tailwind. You had to be on the front end. He was a 33-1 shot. I thought he's going to get chinned. And then next thing, I've sort of laid him in a squeaky bum moment when he's only got done half a length. And Kevin Ryan was quoted on Nick Lugg's podcast as saying that Tom Eaves could have had his time again. He wouldn't be a jockey. No, he said if he could have his time again, he wouldn't have got there quite so soon. So so I can see Washington Heights going particularly well. And Charter, I mean, I thought he was flattered at Haydock in that listed race because he and Pogo cut out the early running and the pair stayed there. They finished 1-2. It was Witch Hunter, the eye catcher, who was third in that race, doing best of the closers. And I thought he was short enough around about 9-1. But I was very taken with the WIZZARD Eye, who, of course, won the Victoria Cup on his debut for Charlie Fellows. He was always likely to improve for the switch from Stan Moore's yard and for Gelding. And, it was sort of like Tom Marquand weaving all over the place, got up late to win that one. And he's the kind of horse who could end up being better in a better race, if they run him like that again, which I imagine will be the tactic. Dropping back to 6 furlongs is an interesting move, but he did win the last time he ran at this trip, albeit back in July 2021. And I think, I know on ratings you say, he's not rated high enough, but he's only had the one go for this yard, and there could be another sort of, stone plus to come, I think, from what he's shown so far. So, I'll go the WIZZARD Eye 16-1.
16-1, yeah, horse side you have sided with previously to good success as well. Right, they are all of our Group 1s at Royal Ascot covered. But Andrew, anything else from Royal Ascot that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, about a million things, but it's mostly like sort of draw, pace, tactics, jockeys, that sort of thing. Obviously, keep an eye on Hayley Turner and Jamie Spencer in their handicaps, but without knowing the actual sort of final decks and who's going where, it's a bit difficult at this stage. So obviously, keep an eye on my column on GG.CO.UK, and hopefully we'll find a winner or three.
Yeah, all three will do quite nicely, or even more so. But of course, like I say, we're doing this without decks or without draws or any of the above kind of key information. But of course, we are trying to give you as much of a general overview as we possibly can. Dave, anything from the rest of Royal Ascot that's caught your eye?
Yes, we have got like confirmations for the Tuesday and the Wednesday at the moment, and there's one that I think is a bit of a price, Rick, which is why I'm happy to mention it. Like Andrew said, you do want to know the draw and things like that, which will make a bit of a difference. But this horse, I'm hoping, is just going to shoot out the gates for Andrew and just make all, revert to what it did on his penultimate start and just one silly. And that horse is Fairbanks in the 6:15 on the first day Tuesday, the Copper Horse Handicap. Last time out, bumped into a horse that is capable of throwing in a run, but you just got to look at the SPs this horse has been the last couple or few times to suggest that he's off a winnable mark. 16-1 top price at the time of recording. General 14-1 shot. There's no way that I don't think this horse doesn't go off single figures. And if they do blast it out from the front, you've got two options. One, hold on and he wins. Or two, you could probably trade it in running if you wanted to do it that way. But I think this Fairbanks will definitely go off shorter. And if they do blast and do catch me if you can, they might not be able to catch him.
They might not be able to then go and catch him again. Confident as ever. Now, lads, I feel a bit mean asking for your nap at this stage because of the amount of unknowns. But at this stage, Dave, if you had a best bet at the current anti-post prices for many of these races, would you have one that you'd be confident enough to be delivering to the viewers?
Big Eves all day long. I could be really bullish on a few of them as well, but Big Eves is the solid, steady one. Not me trying to get a horse beat or anything like that. He will win.
If only he could pronounce his name correctly, then it would be even better than the Big Evs. The sprinting supremo.
Tomato.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, now pronunciations on this show is not an avenue to go down. Big Evs is super confident. I'm with Dave then with him, the sprinting superstar, hopefully. Andrew, anything you're confident about at this stage, put up as a sort of knack?
Yeah, I'll go with the Wizard of Eye in the Commonwealth Cup. Not the Commonwealth Cup. The race formerly known as the Platty Jubes.
Yeah, the Platty Jubes, the QE2 Jubes now it is.
That's
Okay, Wizard of Eye, a big price as well. I'm not going to be as original. I hope that White Birch gets a run in the Group 1 at Prince of Wales Stakes and he can defeat August Rodin. Why change for Habit of a Lifetime? And I'll just continue to take on August Rodin and I'll get it right 50% of the time, just about right. That is everything from us on this very special episode of GG Weekend Watch, our Royal Ascot preview show. So a big thank you to the lads for all of their hard work as ever. Thank you to our sponsor, BetMGM. A bigger thank you to you for watching. Best of luck with your bets during Royal Ascot. Enjoy all the action and we'll speak to you again very soon.